Welcome back. Namaste, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my personal journey through the Tarot de Marseille majors in various forms, contemporary decks, older ones. These are my personal reflections, and while I have been attempting to keep up to a regular regime, sometimes my reading and my studying has not kept up with where I'm at. So today I'm feeling like I haven't quite done as much reading as I would like to have done in preparation for today. However, I just want to mention a book that I'm really intrigued with, and I do plan to sit down and read cover to cover. It is not a large book. This one by Helen Fairley that was introduced to me by Masha, Musings with Masha. This is not a book where you can pick a card and read a few pages about a card. It has a more interwoven approach to the discussion and some really intriguing connections. So I'm looking forward to making time to read this book in its entirety. If you're new, my name is Sadhana, and I'm very happy to share these reflections with you. This has been, I won't say a lifelong journey, but a very long one in studying the tarot, and I can't say enough about the gift of reading cards and what it has done for my personal reflections, my personal growth, let alone working with clients and other people. So welcome to my page. If you're new, it's lovely to have you here, and shout out to Chris, Teeny Tiny Movies. Thank you so much for joining my channel. All right, so let me flip. All right, so I've got a few cards. Oh, yes, one more shout out. So this gorgeous deck. This is the Il Meninghello Sopraffino. I purchased many years ago from the Tarot Bulgaria website. And I've photographed cards, looked through it, done some comparisons of certain cards until recently. And I seem to remember this, but I have been preparing for the upcoming videos. And I realized I don't have a world card from this deck. I have two wheel cards. And so many years after purchasing this deck, I contacted Tarot Bulgaria, which is an amazing shop if you've never been there. And I said, dear sir or madam, you can look into my account. I purchased this deck from you many years ago, and I realize it's out of print. I don't have a world card. Is there anything you can do to help me? Well, lo and behold, they sent me one, and I now have a world card, a complete deck, and I'm seeing a very bizarre line on my screen, and I don't know what that is. If that is from my phone. Do you see lines on my screen? I'm going to take this away. Maybe it is. There we go. Okay, that should be better. So Georgie, thank you, Georgie, for sending this to me. I did pay the postage, but amazing to have a complete deck. Okay. Hello, Dee. I want to read your comment. L'Étoile is a card that has many depictions over hundreds of years, but interpreting the card has remained very similar. Changes of image don't affect the meaning. Okay, yes, I think this is a... there have been many depictions, and I don't to my knowledge, have one of the astrologer cards. So I do have this gorgeous book here. This one is called Tarot and Divination. This is a large hardcover book that has amazing color photographs in it. And let's see if I can get, without moving my camera. This book contains a lot of older cards. It also has relevant artwork as well as discussions about each of the cards. And I believe, well, I do have the Jacques Viavi Tarot, which looks like this one. This is from the Tarot, the Este Tarot. And there is one other depiction of the star that I think it's the Metelli Tarot that I would actually love to have. And I know I can get that. Anyway, very expensive. This card, I just reread David's chapter on this card. And there's a few things that I want to talk about today. And something, as I was also reading, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm distracted today. Jodorowsky's book. As I was reading Jodorowsky's book, was prompted to think about, and I don't think I have ever contemplated this, and that is, why do we have a naked figure in what looks like a rather summery scene, naked in the water, in a card that depicts Aquarius, and has had that kind of energy through history, except for some of the astronomer cards that go back. And I really appreciated his discussion about why this image may be here during a season where it is cold. There is still snow on the ground in North America, in many parts of North America, especially at that time when it was colder during the winter. There may be little bits of green or small flowers appearing through the snow. So why do we have this oasis, this river, this summery looking scene? And I really appreciated these questions and the connection to this particular depiction with the very familiar meaning of hope. And its possible connection to Candlemas, St. Brigide's Day, and the need for humans in the darkest part of the year to have a sense of hope that the next season will bring a flow of energy, that we will have sufficient water to feed the crops, that everything is going to be okay. I appreciated that discussion because I had never, and this has happened a lot in looking at literal meanings of some of the Tarot de Marseille cards. I feel that I have lost a lot in tarot readings when I don't bring in potential older reasons for the depictions of cards. Now, this is a card that looks pretty much exactly the same in the Waite-Smith Tarot, and in many, many decks. And what is it about this card that connects us to that time of year? And even if we're not connecting this astrologically, what is it that we need in this card? We need to feel, we need to connect with. And whether you are looking at the lower half of the card or the upper half of the card, there really is a sense of possibility. Now, the previous card that we looked at, the Tower, La Maison Dieu, historically, there was a comet in the card. And there is also, I think it's necessary to contemplate the connection between the comet and the star. And this whole series of cards, the comet in the Tower, the star and the moon and the sun, these powerful celestial cards, I don't want to miss the cosmic energy here and let it speak as loudly as what's happening down on the ground. I don't want to over-analyze the 7 points, the 8 points. Is this a particular constellation? Does it represent Venus or the Pleiades, or is it actually a bright point in another constellation? I don't feel that is as important as its cosmicness, a sign of brilliance and the fact that we indeed are a part of this greater story. Sorry, sometimes when I get talking, I bump the table a lot. Yeah. So I just found David's discussion really fascinating. Now, I had some other ideas too about the figure in the card. So you can see in the Dodal, and this is the Jean-Pierre Payen deck, the figure is most definitely androgynous. Some people have described it as almost alien looking. You could even say that there is a mask in the Jean-Pierre Payen, very white face, yellow hair, skin tone body. And the discussion of the evolution of the androgyny to the feminine figure reminds me of the deity of Kuan Yin and the evolution of that energy from Avalokiteshvara to Kuan Yin. So if we go back through time, through mythology, we had a most definitely masculine energy that evolved over centuries to a rather feminine energy of compassion and hope. And why, right? Why would this need to change? And how did it seem to evolve through Indian culture, Chinese, Japanese culture, where these deities do not look anything, this deity does not look anything like it did centuries and centuries and centuries ago. And even there seems to be a question whether this is the same deity or not, or if there is indeed a connection between Avalokiteshvara and Kuan Yin. And Kuan Yin, of course, goes by a variety of names. My point being here is that perhaps there is a need, or there was a need, for this shape and this recognition of androgyny, and maybe at a time that this was more familiar, or I don't know, I feel like a card like this wouldn't appear today in a deck. And if it did, it would be in a deck where there were lots of depictions of transgender figures in all kinds of cards. And when I know I'm just going to touch the surface here, but if I go back through Hindu mythology, Hindu spirituality, and look at the depictions of the deities, the gods and the goddesses, and the number of gods and goddesses that were depicted as androgynous, having, often in a painting you would see a line, and one half would be masculine and the other half would be feminine. And sometimes it would be depicted in different ways. And that was just the way it was. And there was this perfect acceptance of our individual androgyny, our individual being both. There was no... And, I'm saying all this and now I'm thinking, oh my God, well, this was a playing card game and people were just playing cards and there wasn't this deep level of thought. So I don't know where I'm going with this. But I find it fascinating, the evolution of this figure to one with curly, flowing hair and a softer face. It's almost slightly uncomfortable, actually, to tell you the truth. In that, why is it uncomfortable? It's uncomfortable because why are we uncomfortable with the androgyny? And why are there so many decks today where we don't see the androgynous figure? Especially, I'm thinking of the Temperance card. And maybe there is a time and a place where we can discuss this card alongside the Temperance card, because I certainly think that is an important discussion. Welcome to Arya. Lovely to have you here. And it is something that is the large hardcover book that I share with you, discusses it. I know Jodorowsky discusses it. So really kind of interesting. My point of this series, my personal intention of this series, is to bring forward lost, and when I say lost to me or forgotten by me, because I didn't spend enough time reflecting on certain books or interpretations, or the fact that my Tarot de Marseille study has been so spotty over the years. And I want to take some of these contemplations and bring them forward into the reading of more contemporary decks. Also, to build my confidence in reading with Tarot de Marseille, or the comfort in reading more literal interpretations. And I have been watching a lot of different readers pretty much every day, and it's such a different style in reading Tarot de Marseille than in reading what I would call contemporary readings. And there's a level of confidence and matter-of-factness and less questioning about the esotericism, the details, and I've really been enjoying it. Okay, so let's look at the cards that are on the table and just sort of see if there's anything that feels is going to make a major difference in reading the card. Because I agree with Dee's point that this is one card that has not varied in meaning over the years. So we look to the sky, we look to the cosmos for hope, support, and connection, for meaning, for prayer, for perspective. This card on the far left is Flournoise Noble, which has really interesting coloring, I have to say. This is the Jean-Pierre Payen. This is the Restoration by Yves Renaud and team. And is there the main difference, I suppose, in these two cards is the absence of the bird in the Noble tarot. And one thing I didn't, this was a couple of weeks ago when I was looking at this card, I noticed, so the star on the navel is mentioned in the Noble and some of the older decks. But when I look at the navel in many of these other decks, I see a crescent moon shape. And I wonder if that is intentional. Okay. Hello, Luna Lion. Okay, that is a name I will look up. Thank you for that, Dee. All right, so Luna says Kuan Yin is normally around red like sparkles. So the stars around her and the cards have red or red like stars for enlightenment. And of course, that is going to... Actually, I want to go back to Kuan Yin because this is such an interesting connection. That will vary depending on the culture that her energy emerges through. So I remember when I was doing, I think it was with the Japanese Reiki master. And I had gone back to do a beginner course with a Japanese Reiki master, because I wanted to relearn and study from the perspective of an old Japanese school. And we were talking about the energy of Kuan Yin and its connection to healing. And I was blown away by the connections of Kuan Yin's medicine to Reiki and healing, and how this evolved. There were the Sanskrit connections came through to the Reiki symbols, and we were looking and comparing these different illustrations and diagrams and art on brass and things at different temples. And so just know that this energy is, while there are similarities among cultures, the art is generally, there's this, it's not just compassion, there's a real healing energy to this. And that's something that I have loved about this card. I think this is a card of purification, cleansing in a sense. And in a yogic sense, purification has to do with, peeling away all of those layers. So following the tower, we find ourselves here in a place of vulnerability and cleansing and cleaning. So I appreciate that. I want to look at that in some art. Okay. The celestial lights form a bridge in the tarot trump sequence between hell and heaven. Now that's really good. I like that. Aria. The torso so often is depicted as having a face, harking back to the central figure on the devil card. The spirit is obviously not evil, but she's not quite entirely relatable as human either. Oh, good to know. Thank you. Thank you for that. So maybe that's what makes me so uncomfortable, is the humanness of the figure in later cards. And sometimes I hesitate to say what I want to say. And I think that, well, I've already said it, and that is there's an attempt to make the cards more comfortable. And I think we lose something in that. And when we lose the androgyny, we lose the discussion. We lose connections between the Temperance card and this card. And so if you read carefully between the lines, I often wonder if the vessel in the left hand is covering up a penis. That this actually is an androgynous figure that we're looking at here, and there would be female breasts and then male genitalia hidden behind one of the vessels. So, yeah. Okay, so what are we looking at here? This is the Marcella, Pablo Robleda's Marcella Tarot, which is so very, very similar to the Pierre Madanier Tarot, which is, I think, becoming one of my favorite Tarot de Marseille. And the coloring in the Gassman Tarot really captures my eye. And there's something about the red star here that really draws my attention. So when I say that, I don't want to get too hung up on what exactly the constellation or the stars represent. There's certain illustrations that really start to spark my curiosity more than others. And it makes me, so here's another thing that caught my attention in the David piece, and that was when it is cold in North America and we have long nights and the sky is clear and the air is clear, we have clearer vision of the stars overhead. And especially when I'm looking at not so much the Swiss deck, but this one and this one, the sky is so full of stars and light, and it feels extremely promising. You know, the promise of spring, the promise of light, the promise of water, everything is there in this card. And so in this card, we have this unique connection between the hope of what is flowing on the earth and the brilliance of what is illuminated in the sky. This is the Il Menengello version of Tarot of the Master, which I need to sit down and go through carefully. I want to look close up at the two different variations of this deck that I have, look at the colors and so forth. But there is something different in the way that the ground is depicted here. There's a different flavor. This is the Marshmallow Marseille. I had it out on the table. I was looking at the moon card in another series that I'm doing. And what is beginning to capture my attention and maybe is a message, not so much what is the constellation, but I'm wondering if in the arrangement of the stars, the alignment of the stars, there is a message. In some decks, they are aligned clearly in 3 rows. And if you look back, so this is the Soprafino Tarot, we have, can I say, more of a natural constellation arrangement. Very different kind of energy here with so much space in the sky. It's the brilliance of the stars is somewhat lost. And I feel like this is a change from the Noble Tarot, again, where we have quite a bit of space in the sky to where the stars become very prominent and fill up the white space. I've always said, you pick up the perfect deck for this reading at this time and you read with it and you allow whatever symbols are speaking to you to come through, and exactly how you see them is exactly what they mean at that moment. And it's such an important thing to remember. And so if I reach over to the side and I choose a star card that has an androgynous figure, I need to let that have significance. And perhaps there will be a reason why the femininity rather than the androgyny of the figure may be significant in a different reading. The sexualization of the star, making her more Western white female, draws one attention from the interpretation of hope and a gift from the divine. And, there's one other thing I want to ask you today, and maybe you can come back and let me know. I don't see any of these writers writing about the focus of the figure in the star, because that, in all of these cards, doesn't change. The figure looks to the jug in the right hand. The figure looks, well, this one's kind of looking at us. But for the most part, the face looks down, if not at the right jug, paying attention to what they are pouring. And I don't know what you might read into that. They never look at the left picture. So the focus is on the right hand. The focus is on the action of the flowing water. Let's go to Arya's comment here. The waters pouring from the 2 jars replace the devil's entrapped human minions. Okay, so we're skipping from 15 to 17, showing that peace comes through emptying oneself. Very Zen-like in my eyes. So yeah, so this idea that we can't fill our cup until we empty our cup. And if we learn the lesson, if we absorb the lesson, reflect on the lesson of the 15th Arcanum, then our experience, I believe, of the 16th Arcanum will not be so severe. But yeah, I like that connection, Arya. A reminder of the importance of emptying our cup. Mm-hmm. And we can't be free, and we don't know what that spaciousness and freedom feels like unless we empty our cup. And so I think about other keywords for me are silence, spaciousness. And there's a real opportunity here to begin again. And I think the creators of the Wildwood Tarot did something really unique here in putting the Fool in this card, saying that if we process the lessons of 15 and 16, we have this opportunity again to walk through the Wildwood. And you see very different perspective, the Fool from a great distance, again, walking on a path through the Wildwood. So however it's portrayed, indeed it does have a similar meaning. And yet that flow of water is certainly significant. And maybe the right hand and yes, the bird, the communication with the bird, that's a whole other. Some of the older decks don't have birds, and the bird may or may not appear in some of the restorations. There's no bird here, no bird. The ibis is definitely part of the Waite-Smith tarot, and in some of the tarots we have an owl, I believe. Like in this one we have an owl. There was one other thought I wanted to finish. So perhaps in the silence, if you want to bring in the bird, in the silence, in the space, in the process of letting go and the purification and the emptying of the cup, we open ourselves up also to greater ability to receive messages. And maybe that bird has an important message. And now that I know what I was going to say, we empty the cup, now we can hear, now we can receive it. But what I was going to say was this right hand thing, right? I'm going to close with this today. The right hand, paying attention to the vessel in the right hand. So right hand being the hand of intention, the hand of action. We actually, we put energy into the release. We put energy into emptying the cup. That's the focus. I am actively emptying my cup because I know that if I don't empty my cup, I can't begin again. I can't be renewed. Okay. D. The star is in a state of innocence, offering libations to the land or performing a personal ritual of purification, nurturing all life with blessings poured on the earth. And as I was reminded, this is a necessary reminder in the darkness of winter to carry hope forth and positivity and our own reviving our own energy, because there's a lot of work to do in the spring. So we need a card like this to carry us forward through the long, long, dark nights. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for your contributions to this conversation. And I will see you in the next episode for the next cosmic card. And I might go back and read a little bit more from Helen Farley's book and see if I can weave some of this together, because she had some really great points, and we have yet another cosmic card. So I'll be sure to share that with you then. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you again. Namaste.